Long Island is made up of almost 300 communities. Despite this, most of its Black population lives in just 11 of them. With over 7 million people, the island remains one of the most segregated areas in the U.S. There are significant disparities between the mostly white population versus people of color. Through steering, redlining, and housing discrimination, home buyers are moving into neighborhoods based solely on their racial identity. We have Garden City, which is a home to a population that is about 89% white, 6% Hispanic or Latino, and 2% Black. Over the train tracks, we have Hempstead, which has a population that is only 5% white, 43% Black, and 47% Hispanic or Latino. And that pattern continues across the island. I'm Maya Brown, and I looked at how location affects one's life, including education. School funding is tied to district lines, which concentrate funds in a single location. This puts school districts at the mercy of their revenue bases, resulting in inequity. The Garden City Union Free School District has roughly 4,000 students and a per-child spending of about $23,000. Then we have Hempstead Union Free School District, which has almost 7,000 total students and a per-pupil expenditure of about $21,000. Dr. Lorna Lewis, the superintendent of Malverne Public Schools, is changing the game for her mostly Black student population. Let's hear a little bit more from her. Thank you so much, Dr. Lewis, for being here today. I really appreciate it. So yeah, let's just get started. Can you first start by explaining your role and maybe some of the positions you've held in the past as well?
So I am the proud superintendent of Malverne School District. I have been a superintendent for 17 years in 3 different districts. One, I began my career as a teacher of mathematics and physics in the city with a private school in the city, and I've done every role in education. I've been a teacher, department chair, assistant principal, building leader, and assistant superintendent. And right here in the Stony Brook region, I was the deputy superintendent in the 3 Village School District, and then became superintendent in East Williston, and then Plainview, Obeth Page, and I'm now in Malverne as a superintendent.
Got it. And why do you love Malverne? I know you said you're a proud superintendent.
I am so proud of Malverne because it defies all odds. It is a district with a demographics that one would think that you would not have those kinds of student expectations. Mm-hmm. Now I have to say I'm not taking any credit for the ground that has been laid, but the people who've gone before me they've really done a great job in setting the expectations for students. So we're 50% Black, 25 to 26% Latino. Mm-hmm. And then we have some Asian students, not very much, but about 22% white. It's a very interesting district because it was a district that was the first district on Long Island that had to be desegregated.
Right.
There was a desegregation order in the 60s. In fact, Martin Luther King, just before his assassination, came to Malverne to support the desegregation efforts. The other thing that's really interesting about Malverne, which is so attuned to what Long Island is, there's a huge street dividing the middle of Malverne.
Right.
It's called Ocean Avenue. In fact, the people say we're going to cross the ocean. So the Black people Black and Latino live on one side of the ocean, and the whites live on the other side of the ocean. Yeah. So the school district, the high school and the middle school, are really the place where everybody comes together.
Right.
And we set the expectations that your opportunities are not limited by your zip codes, because we have several zip codes in Malverne, but that we expect everybody has the same trajectory for success, and we live it. So I feel like Malverne, if we can succeed in Malverne, we can take that out into the outer world, and that's why I'm so proud.
Yeah. And I love how you describe the ocean situation too. Yeah. And as we know, Long Island has a bunch of those types of oceans. There's streets, train tracks. Can you tell me a little bit about what you've seen and some of the examples throughout Long Island?
Oh my goodness. Well, from Nassau County, because I'm not as aware of what happens in Suffolk, although I know a couple of divides. But let's just go down from the North Shore to the South Shore, beginning in Glen Cove on Glen Cove Road. if you drive on Glen Cove Road, you pass Glen Cove School District. I'm talking about school districts now. You pass through that, then you pass through North Shore, high performing and high, the affluence is there. You pass through the East Williston School District, very high performing, very high, low SES, high SES. And then you go through Carl Place and Garden City on Clinton Avenue, because that street becomes Clinton Avenue. And then you get to this one place on Clinton Avenue where the trees disappear. And I would say the trees disappear and opportunities disappear as well, because you walk right into the Hempstead School District where wonderful kids, a wonderful leader who is now there.
Yeah.
But in Garden City, you have 26 AP offerings, and in Hempstead, they're just beginning to build an AP program. So a child who's born in Hempstead, not because they don't have the ability, but they don't have the opportunity to take college level courses in the course of their K through 12 experience as a child in Garden City. And we all know that that's one of the key ingredients for preparation for college. And there's so many other instances like that. Even if you continue down that street, you pass through Hempstead onto Uniondale School District, then you go to the Baldwin School District, then you go into Long Beach. So it just seems that I can't even figure out how they divided the districts up, because if you look at Baldwin, there are parts of Baldwin that are Roosevelt School District, parts of Roosevelt School Districts, that's Baldwin schools, part of Freeport School District, that's Roosevelt schools. So it's not even around the towns. If they had Freeport schools, if Freeport schools had all of Freeport, then Baldwin kids would be going there, Roosevelt kids would be going there. We just simply divided the lines around poor people.
Right.
And that's what we did on Long Island. It's like we decided poor black people live here, let's draw a line. It seems that way to me anyway, because that's how it's just revealing itself. Right. And so we are educating people by zip codes, and we continue to do so. I don't see any movements except in Malverne, where all the zip codes come together and success is there for everybody.
Yeah, and thank you for explaining that. And I know you mentioned the division and everything, and it's been going on for years. Do you think that's also embedded in, in racism, in structural racism? Oh,
it was intentional. It absolutely is intentional, because, well, look, it's really around SES. It's around socioeconomic, but who are the poor people, the new immigrants, and black people have been poor people for a long time. We fund schools kind of weird, because if you can afford it, you can have it. But it's the rich get very well educated, and the poor get state aid. And luckily this year we had pretty good state aid with the governor's new package. But it shouldn't be that children's trajectories are based on their SES of their parents or their immigrant status. It should just be that we have equal opportunities and the access to a rigorous curriculum everywhere. And I don't know that we'll ever solve that.
Yeah, it's definitely been a long, ongoing issue. And I know you mentioned AP classes. What are some of the other instances of educational inequalities that we do see? Well,
the key, and I speak on this all the time, the key for setting you on a path is, when did you start algebra, for example? It's not just about AP. It's what is your program in 7th and 8th grade. And if you don't have access to algebra in the 8th grade, then you're not bound for an advanced Regents diploma. So that's another barrier. Who gets to be advanced Regents diploma? Who gets to see calculus while they're in school? Because if you see calculus while you're in high school, you're more likely to be able to take an engineer path or medical path or study STEM in a serious manner. Okay, who introduces coding, computer programming? What school districts are doing that? And those are not equally accessible. So we have to look at the curriculum And the other piece is really major is who are readers by the end of the third grade. Third grade readers. So we have to look at our literacy program throughout Long Island, and to determine whether we're benchmarking students, are they readers by third grade, and if they're not, what interventions are we putting in?
Right.
That's really important. So there are many aspects of establishing trajectories that we have to look into, but it has to be that we look for a level playing field on all of those aspects.
Right. Got it. And in terms of budget, I know that's another big thing that comes into play. A lot of schools that have a higher population, especially population of Black and Hispanic students, always don't get a good budget.
The piece as we look across Long Island is to look at the per pupil expenditure. So if you are in Syosset and Jericho, your per pupil expenditure is maybe 15,000 higher per child than a Brentwood or Roosevelt. The other piece is to look at our ability to attract great teachers. The salaries that we pay teachers, they're not competitive. The wealthy districts are able to spend more money for attracting teachers.
As we're talking about resources, what should teachers and superintendents really do that have less funding and less revenue do to kind of close that gap?
Well, I think they have to make their case to their legislators that this is necessary funding, although many of our legislators have been very good, and in particular this year, Governor Hochul has provided some state aid. I think we have to look to grants. We have to look to partner with universities to fill that gap, especially if there are districts of color and diversity. Many of the studies that are being funded federally will require us to partner with universities and to fill some of the staff development gap as well as instructional gaps. So that's one way of doing it, but also we have to learn to do more with less. So we have to look at the ways that we could leverage high leverage activities so that we, whatever the scarce dollars that we have to get the biggest bang for our buck. So one of the things that we do, for example, is make sure literacy is attended to, because if you attend to that, then you're not doing remediation in the later years. So looking at what will give you the biggest bang and focusing on that, because the money is never going to be there in competition with some of these high SES districts. So we just have to learn to be better at what we do.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a perfect way of putting it. And I know you're also helping that initiative too with Erase Racism.
Absolutely.
Can you tell me your position on the board and what the organization is all about?
So I've been on the board, I don't remember how long, but it's been a wonderful experience being in Erase Racism because of the work that they do. The work is particularly in schools, building the capacity for understanding unraveling racism, working with school districts, building capacity with our teachers and with our staff, having them even understand what microaggressions mean. You know, sometimes these things are happening, and because of structural racism, you don't even realize what you're doing. And so there are activities that they do with schools that will help to build capacity in that area. But also, Erase Racism addresses redlining in the housing area, and people on Long Island have to know what that impact has been.
Yeah, and I know some of the work you've done there too also translates to the work I know you were involved with the Newsday 2019 investigation.
Absolutely.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? And I know you helped during the process, and what you thought when you finally saw the results of that investigation.
I was thrilled with it. I mean, I think that Olivia Winslow, she was the one I worked with. I actually went on the drive that I told you about. I drove in the car with Newsday filming as I took them from Glen Cove through down to following that street, Clinton, and then all the way down to the Baldwin Harbor.
Right.
And I pointed out the inequities, talking about, what happens in those districts. And then I also went on some other drives with her in Freeport, where Roosevelt and Baldwin cuts over in the Uniondale School District that goes below the Southern State Parkway, which, why would it go below the Southern State Parkway? I have no idea.
Yeah.
But those are all Baldwin addresses. So you've got Uniondale School District with Baldwin addresses. It's a real mess. So that in terms of Long Island, that really highlights how those lines were drawn and the inequities that come with that.
Yeah.
So I was pleased to see that. That particular research has impacted so much. I mean, the real estate industry, you know, they denied all of that they were doing, but
Yeah.
when Erase Racism partnered and sent people out to buy homes,
The
they
testing.
saw the steering that real estate agents did. I myself was victim of that when I was looking for a home, you know, and it exists everywhere. I don't know what people are afraid of. And that's why, you know, Malverne has become this little secret that everybody's finding out about. Like, you can buy a home that's pretty reasonable, that's a pretty diverse district, but your kids, I mean, I have my college acceptances are going through the roof. I've got MIT, I've got Stanford, I've got Brown, I've got George Washington, I've got every single kind of school that you could think of.
Right.
I've got scholars they're bound for greatness. That's what I say. My son did well in Freeport, and I ended up loving Freeport and Freeport schools because back then, and still is, it was okay to be a black boy and be in the AP classes and be a cellist.
Yeah.
And I look for that everywhere. Like, I want children to be able to have those opportunities no matter where they are. Like, it's okay to be an AP scholar.
Yeah.
Like, it's cool. So in Malverne, my AP scholars are football players. They are in
of both worlds, yeah.
You know, the kid who was homecoming king was also in the marching band sectional. He was the lead of a sectional. He just played the prince in Cinderella. You know?
Yeah.
And he's an AP scholar. So because it's a small district, you have to have multiple roles. So there are no barriers. There are no barriers to what kids can do. And that's what we need. We need to say to kids, when they enter kindergarten, with all the hopes, dreams, and aspirations, there's not a single parent who sends their child, their little kindergartner, to our school that doesn't hope that they're going to become the next Obama,
Right.
the next Ketanji, the next nurse who saves a life. We have these great dreams, kindergarten through grade 12. Our job is to fill that dash between K and 12 with just fabulous opportunities, not based on color, not based on where they came from, but based on helping kids to rise to their challenge level. And that's what every educator needs to do.
Yeah. Got it. And then as you were saying that, you know, I feel like a lot of times, and from the research I've done, people just assume that kids of color, students of color, there are barriers to what they can do. Like, they don't expect them to be an AP scholar, to be an athlete, to be the star of the play. Why do you think, you know, that kind of stereotyping and that kind of bias?
Because we've done a really good job in every media of establishing blacks are athletes, whites are scientists. We've really done a good job. That's why, you know, you look at the television roles, there are so many things in so many ways we learn in our society that they're places for black people. And what we want to do is to break down the barriers, and we do that at Malverne. Our kids learn that you want to be it, work hard.
Right.
Work hard. We'll provide the resources. We'll fill the gap between K and 12. We're preparing you for greatness. That's what we do. We prepare for greatness.
Yeah. And my last question for you is just, I guess, what are your thoughts as to what's coming next in terms of educational equity on Long Island? Like, what needs to happen? Do you think it will happen? Yeah.
We are far from it. We are so far from it because, again, the resources are very different. But I see a willingness to understand that we need to provide welcome and affirming environments, so we have to set high expectations for kids, and we have to provide the resources for them to achieve. I see that conversation happening district to district, and the realization that diversity is here. You gotta leave a trail of excellence.
The impact.
You gotta leave a trail of excellence. That's what it's about. And so I want my young people to be ready, prepared, for excellence.
From AP classes, to facilities, to extracurriculars, to sports, and to the teachers that a student has, these are all opportunities that should be available to all students, no matter their color. Long Island is still on a journey to ensure that all students have an equal opportunity for educational equity.